You know, I always like to look at the readings a little bit ahead of time when I'm going to be up here making a fool of myself. And I'm a procrastinator. So yesterday evening, I started looking at these readings. I'd gone through the first reading of Genesis about Abram and just started on the gospel. I had a phone call. And I recognized, it wasn't caller ID, but I recognized from where it was from. It was from my home area. I answered, and a guy on there, which I know but not real well. If you can follow this, it is my sister-in-law's brother-in-law. We vaguely know each other. He called because, surprisingly to me, he said he wanted to become Catholic. He said his dad was Catholic, his mom was Baptist. He had gone to the Catholic Church one week and then gone to another church the following week, ended up being baptized in another church altogether. But to make a long story short, I think he got COVID within the last year, got very sick, and from that he's still very sick. But with his recent, 10 years or whatever, his occupation as an engineer, he would go to nuclear power plants, made a lot of money. He said it wasn't unusual at all for him to make $150 an hour. But he said all along he had Catholicism in the back of his mind. But with the COVID and the sickness coming, he said he had to clear up his conscience. He had these things troubling him. He said he talked to other people and didn't quite understand confession, didn't understand different things about the Catholicism. And we talked until about 11 o'clock. And I thought, I don't know what I'm going to do for today's homily. And I got to thinking, the gospel says, stop judging that you may not be judged. Take the wooden beam out of your own eye before you talk about others' splinter in your eye. That was basically the case with him. He wanted to clear up his conscience. I think he felt death was imminent, whether it be tomorrow or whether it be 20 or 30 years from now. But he wanted to clear his conscience, and whatever beam was in his eye, he wanted to clear it away. He wanted to be right with God. He said that calling has been there for years, but for some reason, something always got in the way. With all the money he's made, he said he's had 2 or 3 motorcycles at one time, boats, he's had lots of stuff. But the important thing is he wanted to take that wooden beam out of his eye, clear his conscience. I thought, isn't that really fitting with today's gospel? And before that phone call, I'd looked at the first reading. He called kind of in between my reflection on the 2 readings. God told Abram, go forth from this land of your kinsfolk and from your father's house to a land that I will show you. How hard is that for each of us? Personally, I've been through it. I come from Southern Illinois. All my family was there. It was home. I knew everyone. I was so comfortable. And it was very hard for me to move to a strange land, Allen, Texas. But God has rewarded me in so many ways, just as he had rewarded Abraham, the father of the Jewish nations. How much has God given Abraham? He's in history forever. The father of the Jewish people, the descendants of Christianity. God blesses us if we follow him. Everywhere that Abram was directed to go, he went. God led the way. Without question, Abram followed, and he was rewarded. Like the person that called me, who knows what his future will be, but he felt a calling. He felt the call to Catholicism, things he didn't understand. There's things that many of us, most of us, do not fully understand, but we follow with faith. God leads us, we follow, and if we follow with sincere heart, we all look forward to our reward. We look forward to serving our neighbor, loving our neighbor, and being one in Christ. So the phone call last night, as far as my slight reflection for today's homily, it was actually a blessing. And I relate to you. Follow the Lord. There's rewards in it for us if we glorify God and love our neighbor and try to get rid of the wooden beam in our eye before we condemn others. Follow God.